Hello everyone, and welcome to week 8 of English 120. This week you're going to be reading The Bedford Researcher, chapter 3. You'll continue to read The Call of the Wild, chapter 2. Then we'll be discussing chapter 2 of The Call of the Wild in our discussion group. For your journal, you're going to do 2 of the green boxes in chapter 3 of The Bedford Researcher, generate potential research questions and craft-focused research questions. Finally, you'll be completing research module, locating research for information needs. So this week, for our critical discussion of The Call of the Wild, we are in the second chapter of The Call of the Wild, called The Law of Club and Fang. So when you're reading, please make sure you answer these questions using evidence from the text. So using quotations from the text, answer these. And when you interact with each other, you can refer to things that try to add on to what people have said. What are the laws of club and fang that Buck learned in chapter 2? How are these laws different than what Buck was used to? Defend your answer with evidence from the text. What is the one thing that Dave and Sol-Leks live for? Why do you think they are like this? How do you think they got this way? Can you think of examples of other animals or humans that show these traits? What does this tell you about animal and human nature? Defend your answer with evidence from the text. If you were Buck, which of the other sled dogs would you choose to be your teacher and why? How is this dog like or unlike Francois as a teacher? Defend your answer with evidence from the text. What trait ensures that Buck will survive in the North? How is this aspect of his character shown in the story? How would this trait have been accepted in his former life? What does this say about the differences in the two worlds? Defend your answers with evidence from the text. Finally, in adapting to his new world, has Buck developed or retrogressed? Defend your answer with evidence from the text. Please make sure you post your own posts by Friday at 11:59 p.m. and respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. This week, you're going to be completing the research module, Locating Research for Information Needs. This tells you how to use our library in more detail. Hopefully this will be useful as we move forward with our research project. So this week, what you're going to be working on is I will be introducing the next big assignment for this class, which is your research prospectus. It isn't due till week 10, which is the week, it's not due till after spring break, and I'll be going into it. But it is worth 100 points, so it's worth a lot. And we won't be doing anything else until week 12, where you'll work on your outline and sources. So let's talk about what a research prospectus is. You'll see an example of it in chapter 3 when you're reading. A prospectus is a proposal to undertake a research project. Prospectus is a statement that briefly describes the questions, materials, and methods a researcher will use in his or her research. Prospectus indicates that the research project fits the required parameters. There's a detailed explanation about writing a proposal or research prospectus in chapter 3 of the Bedford Researcher. So what are the parts of a prospectus? And these are required parts that you need to include in your own prospectus. Please remember, too, this is not due this week. This is due March 29th by 11:59 p.m. The parts that you need to include are a working title for the project, a clear, concise introduction to the topic of research, which includes an introduction to the topic, particularly to the issue of within the topic that you're going to be exploring in your paper, a clear and concise position statement, and a discussion of both the reader's needs and the writer's intent. And there's examples of all of these areas in chapter 3 of the Bedford Researcher. The main research question will also be included in your prospectus. A review of the literature, and we're going to talk about how to craft a research question in just a second. A review of the literature. So all of the reading you've been doing to understand the topic that you're reading about and who the main people are that talk about your topic, that's going to be in the review of literature section of your prospectus. Then a search plan and a list of relevant sources. You need to think about how you're going to conduct your research and what you're going to be looking into. A project timeline, when you want to complete this information. A section that includes key challenges, what's going to be challenging as you complete this project. Also a working bibliography that lists and annotates citations of at least 4 outside sources. Finally, it needs to be in Times New Roman 12-point font. It needs to be formatted in MLA format. See pages 60 to 63 in the Bedford First Sample paper. How long should the prospectus be? It needs to be at least 4 pages long, and more importantly, a prospectus needs to cover the basic points to assure the reader that the researcher plans a substantive project. It's worth 100 points, and it's due March 29th at 11:59 p.m. So, at the heart of your research prospectus, and at the heart of Chapter 3, which you'll be reading this week, is the research question. A research question is a brief question that directs your efforts to collect, critically read, evaluate, and take notes on your sources. It's going to focus on a specific issue, which you've already identified in your work from last week. It's going to reflect on your writing situation. It's going to be narrow, and it's going to begin with words what, why, when, where, who, or how. To generate potential research questions, questions can focus on all of these different areas. Information, so what is known or not known about the issue. History, what has occurred in the past that's relevant to an issue. Assumptions, what conclusions have writers and readers already made about the issue. Goals, what do the writers and readers involved in conversation about this issue want to see happen or not happen. Outcomes, what has happened so far, what's likely to happen. Policies, what are the best procedures for carrying out actions, for making decisions. Questions can lead to these thinking processes. Definition, maybe you're going to be describing the aspects of an issue. Evaluation, asking about strengths and weaknesses or appropriateness. Maybe your question will compare and contrast 2 different things, asking about distinctions between aspects of an issue. Maybe your question will do cause and effect analysis, asking what leads to a specific result from an issue. Problem-solution analysis or advocacy, defining problems, considering outcomes of a problem, assessing potential solutions, or offering solutions. Or sequential analysis, asking about step-by-step series of events. Or inquiry, seeking new information, conducting original research. Or reporting, conveying what is known about an idea, event, or phenomenon. Here is a grid of all of the different types of research questions I was just telling you about. You can also find this in Chapter 3 of the Bedford Researcher. I'm just looking for the page number for you. There's a great layout that shows you all of these different types on pages. This grid is on page 51 and filled out with questions. There's example questions on page 56. Gives you some good questions. So how do you, once you have some, what you're going to be working on while you're reading Chapter 3, there's a table on page 48 that talks about, if you want to talk about to inform, maybe you're thinking of yourself as a reporter, so what is known and not known about child labor? How might we define child labor, okay? Or maybe you want to ask questions like, what causes child labor? Or what are the effects of child labor? What can cure, repair, or prevent child labor? Okay, so start putting the issue into these questions on page 48. Then once you have these generated, you want to generate all different types of research questions. Once these are generated, so that's when you complete on page 50, generate a matrix of research questions. Once you do that, then you want to be able to craft focused research questions. So you're going to look at the questions that you've developed, and you're going to make them reflect your writing that are much more complex, that you can really create a 10-page answer to the question, right? An 8 to 10-page answer to the question. So you're going to review all the research questions that you developed as kind of rough draft research questions, and you need to create 10 before you go to this step. Once you've created those 10 questions, you're going to choose a couple of them that you feel like you really want to refine and make them, because the first drafts of these are not going to be really big enough for you to answer in a research paper. But you can you can refine your research question by looking at page 53 will help you. There's a box here that says craft-focused research questions. And on page 55, there's an excellent page called How Do I Refine My Research Question? So when you look at, maybe your first research question was, what should be done about steroid use by adolescent girls involved in competitive sports? And you could have this, what should be done about the use of children in sweatshops in Southeast Asia? Okay, that could be your question, right? And it's very vague as a question. But when you refine it, it's a way to narrow in your focus so that you can actually answer the question with the research that you're going to do. So to refine this question, you could refine it to, even though we know that widespread drug testing of all athletes, younger and older, is impossible, what should be done about steroid use by adolescent girls involved in competitive sports? So what's been added is a conditional phrase, like the ones listed on the right-hand side of this slide, that sets up some sort of a condition, right? Even though we know this, or because of this, or in light of this, right? It has been shown that so a way to set up a way for us to analyze this issue as directed by you, and then you want to narrow the scope of your research question by deleting vague words and phrases and replacing them with more specific language. Finally, using these specific terms, conduct preliminary searches in the library catalog, online in databases and on the web, in order to really understand your issue. All right, so what you're going to be doing this week is you're going to complete the Generate Potential Research Questions on page 50, the green box. You should generate at least 10 research questions, make them good ones, then complete craft-focused research questions on page 53. That's going to help you really refine those research questions. Again, referring to page 55 on how to refine your research questions. This will get you ready to create your prospectus, which is what we're going to begin working on next week. This is not what you're going to be doing. I'm sorry, the slide shouldn't be in here. So, sorry, there's 2 extra slides in this deck that will not be there when you actually are doing your work this week. I will delete those. Hopefully this information has helped you. Please make sure you read chapter 3 first before you begin working on your research questions, and actively read The Call of the Wild chapter 2 before you begin answering the questions in this week's discussion. If you have any questions, as always, please email me or stop by my office hours. I'll see you online.